How are you guys doing? Good? It's good to be back with you guys. I've seen some familiar faces. It's always great to be back. Those of you who I have not met because I've been out, let me introduce myself. I'm Naeem, one of the pastors here. Excited that you guys are here. If I haven't met you, would love to meet you. And then we got some people watching on live stream as well. I believe Germany is on as well this morning. So can you make some noise for them? Say hi to them. Welcome, welcome. Hey, if you are online joining us, regardless where you are, you might just be at home hanging out. Glad you're a part. Also, talk to your host. You know, they'd love to pray for you, maybe answer questions, things like that. We'd love, I know it's not as good as this, because these guys are amazing, but definitely be engaged as well in the conversation. So you guys are doing good, right? I hear that? It's good? Okay, cool. How many of you are wondering, where did the beard go? Anybody? Who is this man? I remember I went to the gym the other day, and the guy came up to me. He's like, dude, I don't trust you anymore. I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I was like, dude, I'm the same inside, bro. And that's what I said, but he didn't believe me. But this is my summer look. It's my summer look. And yeah, if you think I've lost weight, I have. I've lost weight. Let me tell you why. So we go on this trip. We take this sabbatical vacation kind of a scenario for about 3 weeks or so. And we go to France, then we go to Italy, and then we find ourselves in the Amalfi Coast. This is South Italy, and it's a spectacular view. And let me show you, actually, I'll show you a picture of it. So here's what we looked at every morning. Right? Oh my goodness. We got another picture as well here. This is like, I mean, this could be this is surreal. It's unreal. It's unreal. But if you've noticed that the angle of that photo, we're actually up on a height, right? We're up high. So we got a Airbnb situation, right? We stayed there for about 2 weeks. It was fairly cheap. It was like $100 or so a night, and it was great. It was great. But this view that we looked at came with a huge price. Obviously, not financially, huge price. I'll tell you why. Because the closest store of any kind, yes, required us to walk 327, that's my son right here, 320 steps down, and then 327 steps up, and that's like the closest grocery store. And when I mean grocery store, I am not talking Target, people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a closet that you get like bread and cheese and wine, and that's it. I mean, it's like, that's the closest. Now, if you want a next level up, 2-room grocery store, that's another 300 steps down. So it was epic view, but you got to go down all the way to get any food of any kind. There's no Wi-Fi, there's nothing. Our family, the 4 of us, got really close. Really close. Let me show you a picture of the stairs, because some of you are like, oh, what's wrong with stairs? These stairs. Not like up to code stairs. No, stairs that people have died on. We found remains of people, bones. Signs saying, just stop, go back. It is not worth it. Things like that. And if you notice in this picture in particular, my daughter who's 10 and she's a gymnast, she's actually doing squats. Seriously? After she's climbed down. And her thing, she was all excited about these stairs. Because, I mean, we would usually do, like we've done 2,000 stairs a day. I mean, it was crazy. That's why I lost 65 pounds. My daughter was excited about it. You know, she was like, it's leg day, people. Like, that's what she would keep on saying. It's leg day, people. It's leg day. I'm like, stop, and it's not. And when we go to the grocery store, guess who has to carry it all up? Not you, cutie. It's me. I got to carry this up. And so it came with a huge price. I'll tell you what, at one point, I think one day, it was a week into it, we got up, and we'd eaten everything. There was there to eat, and I was like, hey guys, so there's no food left. There's wine, you guys can just have wine if you want, you know. It's Italy, when in Rome, okay. No. But I'm like, hey, so I was like, hey, so how committed are we to food? Today. How committed are we to eating today? I don't think we left that day. We fasted because I was like, we're not doing this. And I'm not doing this. This is, please, for the love. Like, there is no Domino's Pizza. There's no Uber Eats. There's none of that. Let me ask you guys this, okay? If you were in my situation, how committed are you guys to food? Anybody? Like, oh yeah. Seriously committed to food, right? Okay, let me ask you this question. How committed are you to God? I know. It's for some of you, you're like, Like, what? Why would you laugh, man? I invited a friend. I mean, say some more jokes, bro. What are you doing? How committed are you to God? Yeah, I mean, how committed are you to growing in a relationship with God? How committed are you to a spiritual relationship with God? How committed are you to making this thing that you attend here and come and you try to figure out? How committed are you to whatever this you think this is? How committed are you to the journey? How committed are you to the scriptures? How committed are you for Him to lead you, to obey Him? How committed are you spiritually? Because if that seems too direct for some of us, which I get, it is. Like, because when I ask you this, you go, I know I suck. That's our default. Like, I'm not good enough. I know I'm not that committed. I should be. The reason why I ask this question, and the reason why we should just kind of just relax and just to consider this question, regardless of where we are, our faith and our age in life, like how committed are we to spiritual growth or how committed are we to God? Because this question, this question is really the question you're asking God. Like if you're here this morning, or if you're watching this morning, what you're really saying is the reason why you're here is because you want to figure out how committed is God to you. And you might not say it that way, but some of you walked in and you're wondering, is God committed to answering my prayer? Is God committed to healing me? Is God committed to not leaving me in this season, actually moving me forward? Is God committed to my marriage? Is God committed to me finally being married? Is God committed to us having a child? Is God committed to us? Is God committed to the things that are really important to us? How committed is God? Because for some of you, you might be unclear, very uncertain because things have happened. You're in a season and you're like wondering what, I thought you were committed. Like, have you ever felt like God's not speaking to you? Anybody? Well, maybe it's just me. Okay. God's not speaking. God's not there. You don't feel like he's here. Some of you are here because you just want to kickstart something. You're like, come on. Because what your soul is really asking is, how committed are you, God, to me and my family? Please tell me you're going to be here. And the good news is He is committed to you. Now, you might have grown up in a faith that says, well, God's committed to you as much as you are committed to Him. Like it's like, if you're super obedient, then He's super available. If you're not, He's not there. Bad things are going to happen to you. Some of us have, because we have had different experiences of faith in church and expressions of church, we have this Christian karma idea, right? I mean, some of us just kind of default back to that. Well, the amount of good things, energy, effort, forgiveness, kindness, generosity I give, I get back. Which in theory and principle, it is true. But is that what God is calling us to? Is that why we're here? Or is there something more? Is God committed to you and your family as much as you are? Is that directly related? Or is God committed a little bit more? I think He is committed a little bit more. I want to take you to a passage of scripture. It's in John chapter 15. Now, the book of John is in the Gospels, so it's New Testament. And how many of you guys know the book of John is called the Gospels? But how many Gospels are there? Anybody know for extra credit? I know it's summer. We took the break. How many? There are 4. You got Matthew. You got Mark, and then you got Luke, and then you got John. Now, John's a little different. Okay? So I want you to understand something. Like when you read the Bible, some of us have grown up to like just kind of start with, okay, it's divine, it's God wrote it himself. It's definitely inspired by God. It definitely is telling a story about God. But you have to understand that the writers have a lot of their personality in the writings. The Gospels are eye accounts of what Jesus said. So a lot of things that Jesus said, we have them in the Gospels, the 4 Gospels, that's what we call them that. And so John's very different from Luke, and John's very different from Mark and Matthew. For example, before we get to John, I want you to understand this because I think we've read this passage that I'm going to go to, but we've read it in a way that I think is extremely confusing, and it doesn't really help us. It maybe even just condemns us, but it doesn't really help us understand the point of where he is going with this. So here's what I wanted you to understand. John is so different because you have Luke. When you read when Luke decided to write a book, right? And if you've ever decided or thought about writing a book, anybody, right? Like, oh, one day I'll write a book. Your first chapter, you're like, this is what I'm going to start with, right? So Luke starts with, if you've ever read Luke, he starts with, and he's like, many people have tried to write down all the things of Jesus, and I'm going to do it basically better. Like he kind of starts off with, everybody started done this, I'm doing this, and he goes very much in order. Right? You got, I think you got Matthew. Matthew is obviously just found Ancestry.com because he starts with genealogy. He's like, hey, let me tell you. I mean, he goes into the genealogy of Jesus. You know, Mark starts a different way. He's like, hey, the Messiah, John, when he sits down to write his book, he's like, you know what? I know what my other bros are doing. I'm going to go different. I'm not doing this. And John's I think he's pretty artsy because he actually wrote Revelation. And if you ever read the book of Revelation, you have to be on something to read, write that. But no, not that he was, but he's pretty out there. John, okay, before we read John 15, let me just tell you, John, the chapter, and maybe you already know what I'm going to get to. John starts his book not like, I'm John, I'm writing this, No, he goes super poetic. In fact, I'm sure he read the Torah, like the Genesis book. Genesis, if you remember, Genesis starts with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. I'm sure John was like, I think I can do better. He starts off, in the beginning, wait for it, was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. What? Like, that's his beginning. I'm sure the other guys are like, really? Really? You're going to go in the beginning? Like, you already write stuff like, Jesus loves me more. Remember, he's the disciple. Could it be possible, though, is that John, the writings of John and the writing of all these guys, you have to kind of look at it with fresh new eyes to understand what are they trying to say here. So John, he's convinced that Jesus loves him. He's very artistic. He talks about deeper things. Then he writes what he heard Jesus says, and we read it. And so John 15, just understand that's the background. And so then he starts writing John 15, first verse, and he writes this. He says, basically he's saying, this is what I remember Jesus saying, and this is Jesus' saying. He starts off, I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Okay? Let me just read you a couple of these. Verse 2, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. Verse 3, he says, you are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me, and I also as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Then he goes on, he says, if you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burnt. Some of us talk about, right now, some of us have heard this before, and we think, oh yeah, God's gonna send people to hell. Maybe he's not saying that at all. Verse 7, he says, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my what? Love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this, so that your joy may be in you and your joy may be what? Complete. Then let's skip to verse 16. He says, you did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit that will last. And so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. So, John remembers what Jesus says, writes this down decades later. What is the point of all of this? You see, so many of us have heard this passage that basically translation is, well, if you're not committed to God, God knows, and God's gonna cut you off, and some of you are gonna go to hell. Like, that's pretty much it. Or if you don't get your act together, if you don't do what God's telling you to do, if you don't obey him, this is the relationship. You need to do certain things, and if you don't do them, you're out. You're cut. Either way, you're gonna get cut. If you do good, you're gonna get cut because you're gonna get pruned. If you don't know what pruning is, it requires cutting. Either way, it's gonna be a bad deal. Maybe he's not saying any of that. Maybe when you go to the first verse, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Maybe right there, Jesus is describing a relationship that says right up front, hey, because those guys understood this, right? We are reading it in a different context. These guys knew the illustrations that Jesus were talking about. That's why Jesus doesn't use illustrations like Wi-Fi and Uber and things like that. He uses gardening because that's the age, that was the time in history. These guys know what he says. First of all, let me just define the relationship. He says, it's like the God is the gardener, I'm the vine, and you're the branches. Those guys understood that when he said that he meant that because Old Testament people believed that the vine was Israel. Their identity was found in being Jewish. Jesus is saying, I'm the vine. Your identity is no longer in how and where you grew up. Humanity's identity is going to be found in me, no one else. Secondly, you're the branches. You are connected to me. God is the gardener. Stop right there. Do you know how much attention you need to give to something that you grow? Anybody? Have you ever seen a lawn neglected? Come to my house. You will see it. Is growing stuff easy? Anybody? It requires, if not daily attention, weekly. Jesus redefined how committed God is to you. I cannot leave them. I will never leave them. I'm growing something. You think I'm going to leave you? I can't. See, I'm the gardener. Jesus is the vine. You get your identity from him. You're the branch. I can't leave you. You see, if I leave you, you'll be neglected. If you're neglected, you wither away and die. Right in the beginning, guess what? I'm super committed. I'm more committed than you are. Then, that's just verse 1. Have you ever heard that before? Verse 2, he says, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. We go, right? Dude, you don't get your act together, you are cut. Unless you read the Greek. And the Greek, the word cut off, or in some translations means take away, is the word airo, or A-I-R-O, which literally means to lift up. Right here, he's saying the gardener, God, will cut away branches that have fallen and they're trying to grow into the ground. He will move them and lift them up because every gardener does that. Because there are branches that fall. When a branch falls, it cannot bear any fruit. It's not exposed to sun. It doesn't get the support. It needs support. He's actually saying the gardener will lift up, take away, cut from whatever, and come up and bring it up. Then he's saying the other branches that are actually producing, God will take away things that are unhealthy so it grows even more. This is God's commitment to you and me, not about, hey, get your act together. Then verse 3, he throws in this other thought, which is different from this, this gardening illustration. He says, but you're already clean because of the word I've spoken to you. That he's talking about, hey, listen, he's referring to what Jesus said in John 13. He said, listen, you don't need to take a bath anymore because a person who's taken a bath only needs to wash his feet. Meaning, I am doing something so profound spiritually in you through my dying on the cross that I'm going to redeem humanity. And when they accept it, they don't need to be cleaned again. They just need to do daily cleansing, which is just realigning your life. But again, I've already done something. I'm going to be in them. And then he switches the game around, right? 4, 5, 6 verses. He says, remain in me and I also in you. You can't go from, hey, gardening illustration to now a choice, because a branch does not have a choice. But right here, John, again, John's, he's out there, right? But he talks about it, and Jesus is out there. So he starts moving it. This is again talking about, hey, but this relationship is not just one way. You're stuck to Jesus, you're the branch. No, it's actually a mutual submission, mutual relationship. You get to, by the way, choose if you want to be a branch. He says, if you remain me, because he says, truly, I can't love you. Truly, we can't be in a deep relationship unless you, the other party, actually chooses to love back. Have you ever been in a relationship that the one person loved you, like you were seriously committed and they were not? You know that. You were no longer in that relationship. And he's saying, but if you choose to remain in me, I will remain in you. And then he goes on and talks about how, hey, that's how the Father and I work. Like our love relationship works, and we experience things, and we've been able to create even all of the universe and the multi-universe because of this relationship we have. There's a power in this relationship. I just want you to experience it. And in a way, you'll experience it so profoundly that you'll begin to have the heart of God, and that the things you do pray for and the things that you do believe, it will all happen. He said, but that doesn't happen if you choose not to be connected to me. He says there, right? Without me, you can't do anything. He's not saying you can't make a difference in this world. Of course you can. There are a lot of people without Jesus, scriptures, believing, they are making a difference. Of course they are. Of course they are. He's not talking about that. He's saying all of those things, all the accomplishments, all the good deeds, all the social justice projects, all these things will eventually die with humanity. He says, but there is a fruit. There is something else, though. If you're connected with me, then we'll produce, then we'll do something, then we'll experience something that will never be taken away. It's like a married couple, right? It's like a married couple, how you can individually do some things, but there's only a few things you can do together. And when you do something together, that memory, that thing shapes your soul and your heart. You can't put a finger, you can't even describe what that looks like. In fact, when he begins talking about this idea of remaining or abiding, he's referring to a passage in the Song of Solomon in chapter 6, verse 3, where the writer says, and that book as well is talking about this love relationship with God. He says, I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. You see, this whole chapter is not about, behavior modification. This whole chapter is this beautiful, abstract, yet blatant confession of a commitment that God has for humanity. He says, I'm in. I'm totally committed to you. And see, that's why when you read passages like that, God has the right to say, okay, then are you committed to me? Like, are you committed to me? And so just to kind of put some legs on this, I thought, okay, what's the best way to understand commitment? In this passage, there are 3 words that I believe really speak to me, like in terms of a practical way. This idea of, are you in, are you with, and are you for? So in, with, for. Can you help me say that out loud? In, with, for. And so I think what this passage is basically saying is God is in, like he's in. With your mess, everything, he's in, but he's also inside of you. Like there's this whole supernatural thing. He's with you, and he is for you. He's in, with, and for. Like if you read the rest of this chapter, it begins to show this profound relationship. And here's the beauty of it. This passage reminds us that the scriptures, the Bible, is not like this, these phrases that need to be pills that you prescribe to like sin in your life. The scriptures are so much more than that. They're telling a bigger story. And I will tell you, every passage in the scripture, every story connects to God basically telling us, hey, the Bible's not a pill. It's actually my plan to redeem you. My plan to make you whole again. My plan to rescue humanity. It's my plan. And so he's saying, I'm in, I'm with, I'm for. But here's what I'm asking you. Are you in, with, or for? So the question is, are you in Christ? Are you in? Are you in? And you know, right? People who say they're in, but they're not really in. Anybody? Right? Like people who say, I'm so in. You're like, no, you're not. But then others, you know, they're in. They are so in. Are you in? Are you know? You're like, I don't know if I'm in. Well, your your next step to commitment to God is, are you in? And that only you can answer that. Have you said, Jesus, come, lead me, save me, heal me? Are you in? Are you with? You're like, I'm with God. And a lot of us, this crowd, probably are like, I've been with him it's been forever. All right, so are you really with him on everything? Like, so a couple of years ago or so, I got a Harley Davidson motorcycle from my father-in-law. Wow. That's why he's a keeper, man. I'm going to keep him around, right? I got a motorcycle, and I got really into Harley Davidson stuff. I mean, I was like, some of you guys know, I used to ride it over here. I was a Harley Davidson guy, and then eventually I made it to my first bike week. Yes, Harley Bike Week in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Woo! Have you guys ever experienced that? You're not missing anything. Anyway, so I show up, I show up, I'm like, I'm a Harley guy. I'm cool. I don't know what, at some point, somewhere, I looked in the mirror and I saw myself. And then I saw everybody else and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a Pakistani Middle Eastern man dressed in chaps. What am I doing? I'm not a Harley guy. I'm not, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I look ridiculous. And these guys, it's a different tribe of people, right? And I know you can get in there, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm with them. I don't know. And then I started realizing, like, I would talk to these bikers and even people at Mosaic, and they're like, hey, yeah, you want to go for a ride? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then they would talk about the ride. Like, they're like, hey, we're going to go to the, Blue Ridge Parkway, and we're going to take a day, and then we're going to take 2 days, and then we're going to ride 2,000 miles. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, and then people will call me and say, hey, you want to go out? And the weather is too hot. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I gotta pray today. Like, I don't want to go. And then I realized something. I'm not really with them. I'm with you if you want to go to Uptown. Like, I'm with you. Like, if you want to go on a ride for like a mile, I'm good. After that, my butt hurts. I don't want to do that. It's just too hot. I don't want to do that. All that gear you got to put on. I don't want to do that. And I just realized I might not be a Harley guy. I'm with them, but it depends. And I think with some of you, you're with God, but it depends. Like, you're with him when it comes to good stuff or things you like, but you're not really with him when it comes to your character. You're not with him to the level of forgiveness that he's wanting you to experience and give. You're not with him when it comes to generosity and finances. I mean, you're kind of with him, but you're not really with him. Like, you're not on the same page with him. You're not with him. You're kind of like, when it comes to your sexuality and your relationships and how you navigate that, you're not really with him. I mean, you're with him when we sing a song or you look at some other things. You're with him on that, but you're not really with him. You're with him to do good things, but you're not with him when you do hard things. You're just not really with him. And God's saying, I'm with you. Like, I'm with you when you really do make unwise decisions. I'm with you when you get into some major problems and addictions and debt. I'm still with you. But I just want to tell you, you're not with me. You say that you're committed, you're in me, but you're not really with me. And then lastly, are you for me? And for some of us, we're like, well, I'm with God and I do my thing. Yeah, but you're not for him. You're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm like, God is looking at you and he says, what can I do to make this person the most fruitful? What can I do that their joy would be complete? What can I do for this person to bear so much fruit, meaning to be so successful? What can I do? That is how God begins the day. You know where I'm going, right? I don't know if that's how we begin the day. God, what can I do to make your joy complete? God, what can I do? How can I leverage my business, what I do for you? And we can't really say, oh, only people who get paid or are on staff do ministry for God, they live for God, they work for God. That's not true. You all do. Like, you are a pastor, priest, prophet in wherever you do. Whatever you do, whatever arena you're in, you are God's representative there. And if you were to leverage maybe even just the direction of your heart and your mind, and maybe even some of the scheduling, you'd say, okay, what can I do to further the kingdom of God? God, am I for you? See, this is a very hard conversation because it comes down to commitment, right? And commitment's easy when you say, oh yeah, I'm committed to God. But are you in him? Are you with him? And are you for him? because that is the level of commitment God is saying works. He says, hey man, if you're in me and you remain in me and we have this relationship like I have a relationship with the Father, you have no idea the amount of things you will experience. Besides your joy being complete, you're gonna bear fruit. You're gonna do some things that you never thought possible, because God is super committed. He's in with 4. But you get to choose. You get to choose. Are you in with 4? So this morning, where are we? Where are you? Maybe you're not really in. Maybe you're not really with. Maybe you're not even really 4. And I don't know. But I do know this. If you are not in, let's get in. If you're not really with, then struggle with him on that issue. Hey, God, I don't know if I'm with you on this. Well, then wrestle with him. Figure it out. Move forward. Are you for him? God, what can I do to leverage my gifts, my talent, my job, my life, my schedule for you? Let's pray together. Lord God, we love you. We do. And some of us are very aware of that. And some of us, we're showing up and we want to just say we love you. We want to love you. We want to be with you. And God, this morning is a hard conversation, but it's a good one. God, I know that I'm asking, God, are you committed to leading me? I'm asking that. I'm asking, are you committed to not letting go of me? Are you committed to that? Because sometimes I feel like I can go off. God, I thank you that you remind us, hey, I'm committed to you. If you think I have let go, I have not. It's just you that has let go. I'm still holding on. God, I thank you that you are the gardener and you are fully engaged daily, weekly, seasonally in growing. That is your glory, God. That's who you are. God, thank you for this vine that Jesus is, this person of Jesus that we can all of humanity can be connected to. God, thank you for that all of humanity can find its identity in. God, I pray that we would be in, with, and for you. As we go to the cross, as we light candles, as we go receive communion, God, lead us. We want to be with you wherever you go. God, we love you.